Hi, I'm Jeff Dial. Welcome to another edition of Footprints in American History. Today, we're going to talk about the nicknames for New York. Now, when we think of the state of New York, we're going to think about the Excelsior State, which is kind of a little bit more of a secondary nickname, and especially the Empire State. Now, New York got the name the Empire State because of the massive resources and the wealth that come from the state. So it's a pretty easy nickname to figure. We're going to talk today also about the nicknames that are going to go for 3 different cities in the state. Now, the first one will be Rochester. The second one will be Buffalo. And the third one will be, of course, New York City. So let's talk about Rochester real quick. Now, Rochester has a couple different nicknames. One of them is the Image City. Now, that's a pretty easy one to figure out. They had plants there for Kodak, and they also had a plant for Xerox, so not too hard to figure out. However, they were also known as Flower City. Now, an interesting thing about the name Flower City was that they used to be the largest flour producer in the world. They used to have over 20 flour mills on the Genesee River. So when they called it the Flower City, it's as in like flour you use to make cakes and so on with. However, after the 1850s, they started calling it the Flower City, but Flower because they had the largest seed plant in the world. So it was the Flower City, and then it became the Flower City. That's Rochester. Let's talk a little bit about Buffalo also. Now, Buffalo is an interesting city as far as the nicknames go. They actually have several nicknames for them. They are the Queen City of the Lakes, the City of Light, the City of Good Neighbors, Nickel City, because they had some nickels that were associated with the city in the early 1900s. They were also the Bison City, Flour City. Now, the reason for that was that they were actually the second largest flour manufacturer in the world, but they were also the largest place in the U.S. as far as exporting wheat. So that's how they became known as Flour City also. So kind of a common thing with Rochester. But they also became known as a city of no illusions, as well as DeBuff and Below. Now, the reason that they became City of No Illusions was because in the 1970s there was a man named Michael Margolis, and he was designing a logo for the American Studies program at the University of Buffalo. He just thought it was a really good name. It had so many different meanings to different people that the name just took off. So that's how it became known as the City of No Illusions. Okay. The city of New York was originally settled by the Dutch in the early 1600s. In 1664, the British took control and renamed it New York. Over the years, it got new nicknames. One of them was Gotham City, which actually came out long before Batman and Robin. It was also known as a city that never sleeps. Any of you who remember the old David Letterman, some of the shows he did, he used to always refer to it as the city so nice they named it twice. However, we're going to focus a little bit more on the Big Apple. Now, the Big Apple had a lot of different stories behind how it originated. We can narrow down a little bit. Now, part of it was the jazz scene that helped attract people to it, and they began calling it the Big Apple because it was more attractive. But a lot of it had to do with apples in a barrel. Now, obviously, you're going to put the nice apples up on the top of the barrel. It means the best. So that's why you want to keep it the big apples on top that are more delicious looking. So what happened was they started calling it the Big Apple. However, most people seem to agree that the main reason New York became known as the Big Apple was because of, in the 1920s, there was a sports writer named John J. Fitzgerald. He had a column called Around the Big Apple. Now, what it was New York was a very big place for horse races, and Obviously, they felt that the best apples were going to be the fastest horses. In other words, a guaranteed win. So they began calling them Big Apples. And as a result, it became associated with the city of New York. However, also in the 1970s, that name became popularized because of an ad campaign, because they were wanting to clean up the image of the city and attract visitors. So they began calling it the Big Apple, this ad campaign. Thank you for watching this edition of Footprints in American History. I hope you enjoyed the story you heard today. If you enjoyed the videos, please like and share the videos, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell if you want notifications for future videos. Also, we have a Facebook group called Footprints in American History. Feel free to join us. You'll get notifications of upcoming videos, as well as learn about other parts of history that are not going to be posted on the YouTube channel. I'm Jeff Dial. Fair winds and following seas. Thank you for joining us. Delicious.